what I would say to them if they thought to discuss any of this with me, which they never have, is something I often say in class, which is a definition of conspiracy theory is something that, if true, you couldn't handle it. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they're too certain of their knowledge.
Yeah. Well, and you can always tell by the emotional reaction. You know, like this whole year, you know, if you would challenge a certain narrative, even, you know, with like my close friends and family, there would be a strong emotional reaction. And I'm like, why? I'm just kind of questioning what's going on, you know? And that was one of the just weirdest, it was more of like a phenomenon that I feel like I only experienced for the first time ever this year, was just like, hey, so what about this? And people get mad at you.
Yeah, right.
And it's a very weird experience.
Well, it is weird, and it has everything to do with fear. Okay,
Yeah.
this is a fear campaign, and in that sense, it's no different from the drive against the Germans in World War I. Right? People read these stories of babies impaled on bayonets, and soldiers crucified, and nurses with their breasts cut off. It's a hideous, gruesome, ghastly, infuriating stories that were all made up.
Mm-hmm.
But they had the stamp of authority on them, right?
Yeah. And
if people read them in the New York Times, elsewhere, and they believed them, and it just pissed them off. So if you were going to tell them, you know, German army is not doing any of those things, they would just get furious at you. You know, what are you, a pacifist? You know, don't you want to save civilization? What are you, a German spy? Are you a sympathizer? I mean, you know, the hysteria then is something people need to acquaint themselves with. They actually renamed sauerkraut. They called it liberty cabbage because sauerkraut was a German word. So it was really a hate campaign, fear and hate.
Yeah.
And you couldn't question it. And the same thing happened with the Red Scare after World War II. People were scared, terrified of Red subversion, right?
Yeah.
Same thing happened after 9/11, right? The war on terror. It's becoming more abstract and amorphous. You go from the Germans, which is a nation, to the Reds, who could be anybody. It could be your mailman, it could be a communist, you know. To terror, you know, some guy in a backpack could be set to blow you up, right? Mm-hmm. His shoes could explode in your airplane, right?
Yep.
But nothing is as terrifying as the virus. So this is really an
enemy,
the unseen enemy. Now, everyone you meet could kill you just by breathing near you, right? I mean, there's a lot of science about this. Yeah. You cannot catch a virus like this in the open air with the sun shining. You can't.
Yeah.
Walk past you and exhale this stuff. You're not going to get it. You're not going to catch it. Most transmission takes place indoors. A lot of the deaths we've been reading about were in nursing homes, you know, due to the deliberate inclusion in those homes of COVID patients, which governors like Cuomo and Newsom and Whitmer, all over the country, all Democrats as it happens, they all did this. Britain did it. Canada did it, right?
Yep.
It's almost like it was a euthanasia campaign. A lot of the deaths were indoors and by, you know, among people who had a lot of other illnesses too, comorbidities. They were all quite old. You know, you can study this, you can read it. The natural immunity rate is extremely high. We know this from